Welcome to the Geek 101 podcast, episode 260, The Old Guard. Just because we keep living doesn't mean we stop hurting. I'm Ariel.
And I'm Andy Bowman.
And today we are reviewing the Netflix original action film, The Old Guard, starring Charlize Theron and Chiwetel Ejiofor. But before that, we actually do have some news, a normal news segment. Andy, why don't you start us off?
Okay, well, we are getting the Batman spinoff TV series, kind of, sort of. HBO is greenlit the Batman, a series set in the same Gotham as the Batman, but that series itself is focusing on the Gotham Police Department.
Yeah, so what we do know so far is that this is set, like Andy said, in the Matt Reeves directed quote unquote the Batman universe, right, with the Robert Pattinson, whatever. We do know that it is going to focus on the Gotham City Police Department, and the most recent update says that this will be set. The time period is before this upcoming Batman movie. So it's a prequel to it. Andy, what are your thoughts on that specific thing there?
Okay. Like, we don't even know if the Batman is going to be a origin story, right? We are thinking it's going to be a recap of year one or maybe the Long Halloween. So maybe this series could be the year one, right? Where Batman is a super mysterious, always never really in sight, but rumored presence. That could be cool.
Yeah, so there were thoughts that this was going to be based off of the Greg Rucka and Ed Brubaker series Gotham Central. That comic book focuses on the Gotham City Police Department while Batman is operating at his prime. The crux of the plot lines in that series have to do with the Batman and the Batman's enemies. And so theoretically, this Gotham series, this Gotham PD series will be very similar to what we just got in the TV show Gotham, or it could, right? Andy, I was very disappointed in Gotham as a show. I thought we were going to get Gotham Central in a way. This is like the worst possible details, worst possible time to release this. It's like, it's not a good idea right now. The setting, there's just so much I don't think is right for this project.
Yeah. There's zero that is right for this project, especially with the timing. But also, we don't know how successful Matt Reeves' Batman and Vision of Gotham is going to be, right?
Yeah, and
that's the problem.
We also, as a fan base, cannot trust that this movie is going to... You can't trust that the movie is going to be good, because no matter who the director is, we know that the people in the positions of power are terrible at their jobs. If you're a Snyder fanboy and you I'm sorry, those movies aren't good. Justice League, Batman v Superman, Man, those aren't good movies. They're not right for the characters. I don't know how much of it is Zack Snyder, how much of it is the producers, but this is not looking, I don't know. I am more confident in the Batman being good or being okay than I am in this particular project.
Yeah. It's interesting, but I think what's really interesting is that they are clearly going whole hog on the idea of a cinematic universe. They are investing in Matt Reeves' vision of Gotham beyond just the Batman. And this is an HBO series, so that is interesting, right? HBO series usually don't... I would never call an HBO series family friendly. I can't think of an HBO series that could be put on network television without major tweaks to it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just there we go right there. They are investing in this vision of Gotham. They are going all in on it, or relatively all in on it, before we even get a first real trailer.
You know what would actually really work and would quote unquote fix this idea is to make the protagonist and the point of view character somebody who maybe joins the police and then quits after the first season. Similar to how you see Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, although that wasn't done with any real subtlety, right? Any real craft to that. I think you have to make this show about how the police are as corrupt as the criminals, because that's the thesis of Batman, right?
Right. The police are so corrupt they can't protect Gotham, so Bruce Wayne has to do it.
Yeah. And of course, Bruce Wayne has evolved into way more than he should. He's no longer like a member of the community that he, is a vigilante in, unlike Daredevil, right? Who we know is a member of the community. But I think if you can pull the Batman back and you can pull all of that back and you make the show about how cops are corrupt and about how cops abuse power, like that's the way to do it. And you do it in a fictional world and you kind of pull and bring Batman back to like his source, back to like year one, right? Or even in The Dark Knight where he tells Gordon, it's just like everybody here is corrupt. And if me and you can try to do it, that's still propaganda, right? With Gordon. But if you have this character quit at the end of the first season because he or she knows, if it's Montoya, if it's a Dick Grayson, there's some precedents in the comic books where Dick Grayson was a cop for a time. If the idea is the system is so broken that we need to work outside the system to do something about it, while also not being like a member of the billionaire ruling class, that's not easy, but would be really interesting.
Dude, a Montoya would be fantastic.
Yeah, to me, like she's been used a couple of times already in The Dark Knight and in Birds of Prey. I don't know if they want to do that again.
Right. The other possibility would be you throw a Barbara Gordon in there.
Sure. Barbara Gordon's good. Who's the guy who turns into the Spectre? Crispus Allen. So he's a detective. He was in Gotham. See, that's the thing, right? He's in, like, most of these characters are in Gotham, the show already. And so it is really annoying that they're going to just keep trying to revamp the same nonsense over and over. Anyway, that'd be really cool. I think we do need to see what Matt Reeves' Batman is going to look like first.
Yeah.
Will the Green Lantern fit in that world? And that's the issue with most of the Batman movies and comics, or not just Batman comics, but DC Universe comics, is that everybody wants to roll everything through Batman. And so things sometimes get too dark. Like, cause how can a world exist where Superman is this bright beacon of hope and literally like 2 towns over, Batman is beating people within an inch of their life? And so like it just doesn't, they're so antithetical. It just doesn't, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm interested in what the tone of this Gotham cop show is going to be, but it's still going to be a cop show. And unless the show was literally about dismantling the cop, the police force system, it's not a great time, and I probably won't be watching it.
Yeah. We'll have to see. We will have to see, because it could be like 2 or 3 years before we even see a trailer for this.
Yeah, with all the production stalling and whatnot. We do have another piece of news. Another Star Wars animated series is being based off of. Let me restart this. We do have another piece of news. We have Star Wars: The Bad Batch, which is an animated show based off of an imperfect batch of clone troopers, if I'm not mistaken. Andy, what do you know about this?
Yeah. So they were introduced in the first episode of the new Disney Plus season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, The Bad Batch. They are Clone Force 99. They have a 100% success rate, but they all are kind of, messed up in different ways. This is interesting. This is a way to keep the Clone Wars alive without focusing on the actual Clone Wars characters.
Yeah, have you been keeping up with these Star Wars animated shows? I dropped off after the Clone Wars first ended.
Yeah, I'm in the same situation as you. I haven't gotten around to getting back into it. I've heard nothing but good things.
All right, well, let's finish our news segment here with an unfortunate passing. We have Grant Imahara, who is one of the Mythbusters crew members and engineers. He has passed away at the age of 49 from a brain aneurysm. Andy, were you a fan of Mythbusters?
Absolutely. This was heartbreaking news for me.
Yeah, I think most kids growing up at the end of the, or most teens coming up at the end of the cable era before streaming really took off, would recognize Grant from his work in Mythbusters. And, he's so young, only 49. Crazy. But let's move on to our main topic, Andy. Let's talk about The Old Guard. This is a movie that you have actually watched twice, if I'm not mistaken, in the last few days.
Yes. Now, Ariel, I do have a quick, just little notes announcement here to make. This episode of Geek 101 is made possible by Tupps Brewing. They're not a sponsor, but they're the only way that I got through this movie.
Okay. This is a Netflix original action film, and it feels like a Netflix action film. So some background here. The Old Guard is based off of a comic book by Greg Rucka and Leandro Fernandez. Greg Rucka was also, if I'm not mistaken, the screenwriter on this movie, which says a lot, actually, now that when I learned that. Andy, what were your thoughts on this movie?
It is perfectly serviceable. It is the best review and just thought of it I have had is in a week, somebody will ask me if I've seen The Old Guard, and without any malice, I will say I don't know what that is.
The Old Guard features Charlize Theron as she plays an immortal, right? Who is part of a small mercenary group with 3 others, as people try to capture these immortals and unlock the secrets behind their immortality. It is a very cookie cutter sci-fi concept movie. This movie is completely forgettable, and I am baffled at the critical acclaim it is getting. It's got a very high Rotten Tomatoes rating. 81% of critics say that they would recommend it. Andy, would you agree with me in saying that number is artificially inflated because we have not gotten any real new movies in the last 3 months?
I agree 100%. I think we are basically in a giant month-long airplane trip, right? And the idea is like, I don't know if you have this idea, Ariel, of an airplane movie. It's a movie that you wouldn't really watch unless you had no other choice but to keep yourself somewhat entertained and you didn't have access to the internet and it was just there. This is that. This is what it is. It is an airplane movie. But Ariel, just remember that forever is harder than it looks.
That is, of course, the tagline on the poster. This movie was, like I said, it was, the comic book was created by Greg Rucka, and it was written by Greg Rucka, the screenplay that is. And I think you can definitely tell that the person who wrote this film is not experienced in screenwriting. It just doesn't have that appropriate flow to it. It really lags at certain points. A lot of the dialogue is very, very comic booky in a bad way.
Yes, it's the kind of dialogue that makes sense coming out of the words coming out makes sense if you're looking at a picture of someone saying it. They do not make sense if you're looking at a human being saying these things in person, in all seriousness, to a band of thugs before they kill them all.
Yeah, it very much feels like a 2-hour shoddily made pilot of a CW show. That's what this feels like to me. Greg Rucka, I think most of all, he does not know how to pace this movie in the script, and I think Gina Prince Bythewood. I don't know. I wasn't super enamored with her direction either. It just doesn't. It feels like they had all of these things they wanted to fit in. The movie is, I think, a full 2 hours long, and you could have cut 40 minutes out of it of really bad world building and dialogue. You could have cut so much out of this movie. You could have spent a little bit more on the CGI effects of the blood. You could have done so much. Now, Ariel, there is one interesting thing about Gina Price Bythewood that we should probably discuss, actually. What is that?
Do you know what her next project is?
I forgot. I read it somewhere and I forgot.
Okay, her next project, she was originally supposed to be Silver and Black.
Yeah, that I saw. Okay, that's what I was thinking.
And now she is just writer and producer on Silver Sable and Black Cat. She might end up being a director for one of those.
Okay. The only positive thing you can claim in this movie is that Charlize Theron is an adequate action actor, quote unquote action star, and as in that she at least knows what she's doing when in a fight scene. The action scenes aren't great. They present these moments that are supposed to be so cool and so like you're supposed to be so impressed by some of these moments, and then you're left and like that's what we were supposed to be impressed by. It's like watching a high school basketball game and the kids acting like they're professionals, and we're just like, we're supposed to be impressed by what? Like, it's just, I don't know. The movie is a perfectly acceptable B-level action movie. And that's not for me anymore.
I do want to say that I think Chiwetel Ejiofor proves that he can find something in a script, no matter what's in it.
Mm-hmm.
Or he can try, because he is probably the only actor trying in this.
Yeah. I know. I think Kiki Lane, who plays Niall, which is there's some depth there. There is something early on. Charlize Theron's character, his name I just keep forgetting. Her character Andy says something, and I think that this is such a great thesis or motivating factor for a character in an action movie. And she says, "Things have never been worse. They just keep getting worse." And if you've been alive for 3,000 plus years, that's an interesting statement for a character to make. Yeah, and they don't spend enough time on that thesis because they try so hard to establish emotional beats and character backgrounds, but there's too many of them. There's too many of them in in what is supposed to be a schlocky action film. Like, I don't care. Like, imagine if Ocean's 11 tried going to the background of 6 of their characters. Like, frankly, I don't care. Give us the heist. And they do it, right? They do it in such a clever way. And this one is just like, man, I really don't care about Booker and Andy and, Joe and Nikki. And like, and then they even give us backgrounds for Chiwetel Ejiofor's character. And it's just like, and then they introduce Quinn, who's another character. It's like, wow, like we got so much information, and it's so schlocky, and it's so bland, and it's so, I don't know, man. This was not, to me, I didn't like this. Is there anything else non-spoilery that we can mention?
We can mention that the main villain, played beautifully by Dudley Dursley, from the Harry Potter movies, is just the most laughably over-the-top villain.
Yeah, he is not good at all. Good Lord.
Oh, man. There's nothing worth discussing without spoiling things, Ariel. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, so let's get into spoilers here. So if you haven't watched it and you still want to, if you want to watch something new, which is a perfectly fine thing to want to do in this climate, pause it here, come back. Okay, here is my number one thing I want to discuss. Greg Rucka and Gina Prince Bythewood have made a movie where essentially your 4-5 protagonists, right, mm-hmm. are a group of Deadpool / Wolverine-like immortals. And the movie makes it seem like the person who wrote and directed the films, the peoples, have never watched or read or have any background into any of those types of characters.
Yeah, I this entire time I was screaming because Deadpool or Wolverine or anyone who, it's not only that they're immortal, it's that their healing factor is that quick.
Yeah, and so if you're watching the movie, there are several moments where they're just being, the immortals are being held captive in handcuffs. Plain old, regular handcuffs. And so there's a scene in John Wick, and I brought this up to Andy off air, where this one character gets kidnapped and put into zip ties or handcuffs, like in the hotel, and John Wick puts her in there, and she breaks her thumb and slips out and is able to escape. Like, you can literally chop your hand off, crush your hand, break your thumb, break your hands, rip, like, there's no reason why these people are able to be captured unless you drug them and you establish that drugs work. But they don't. And so to me, this feels like somebody was given this concept, wrote out an entire film, and then they added the immortals part in afterwards.
Right. And so here's another thing about that breaking your thumb and slipping out. Ariel, that is done almost every episode of Arrow.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the thing. It becomes such a joke in that show that that they never even like show Oliver Queen frustrated that he has to break a bone in his hand or dislocate his thumb to do it. And you would think a team of immortals would do that if they're trying to keep their entire operation secret, which is what they keep saying out loud. They want to keep everything secret. They don't want people to know about immortals.
Yeah, it's just they keep saying that they're confronting with the emotional whatever about being immortal, but they don't show us any of it. These characters don't think in a different way. They don't, right? My mental capacities from when I was 16 to when I'm 29 are worlds apart. And I don't understand why you can't write a different way that these people think when they're in the comic book, Andromache of Scythia is 6,000 years old. she has a different perspective on life that is never explored here.
No, but all of her feelings are told to us not by her, but by her teammates as soon as she leaves the room,
and is prompted by a magical dream that the new found immortal gets. Yeah, it's not good. There's a couple of things also I want to mention. And a woman named Andromache of Scythia, that's thousands of years old, is not white, right? Either that's ancient Greece, or Scythia, as it once was, is kind of where modern Iran is right now. And so to have, like, they want that exoticism and mysticism. But they're just going to cast Charlize Theron, which is not great. And
well, Ariel, you don't know what 6,000 years will do to your skin, okay? I can't even.
This is directed by a black woman, and there are two black actors in this film, Kiki Lane and Chiwetel Ejiofor. They're both members of the U.S. government. And it's just not a great, like, it's just not a great look. Like, you have one in the army and one in the CIA. Those are two of the worst organizations in the history of the planet. It's just not, it was just not, nobody smart gave this a once over.
No. Also, let's talk about them bringing, Andy brings a battle axe into combat, and one of the other guys brings a sword in.
No, all of them have swords. In that first scene, all of them have a bladed weapon. Why? I don't know. To look cool, I guess. It's so strange that they're not smarter. They're really stupid immortals.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. We do know of Quinn, another immortal who's trapped at the bottom of the ocean.
Right. Completely unrecoverable, who just keeps drowning to death over and over again for the last 500 years, and they've just never even tried to find her, it looks like.
It says that they tried and couldn't. Which to me is bullshit. It's dumb, right? Like, you can, like, hey, you're immortals, and if you had taken money and set up fake children and put it in a bank account, like, if you did that 1,000 years ago, you'd be one of the richest people in the world. Like, it just nothing tracks. Like, I don't know. Did you watch, Andy, have you watched that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie from like 2007? The
animated one?
The CGI one, yeah.
Yeah.
Like how that guy was like, yeah, I was a warrior like 10,000 years ago, and now I'm the richest person in the world. Like, that's what you do when you're an immortal. You keep faking your death and making up kids and abusing the system that we know is broken and can be abused and tricked. And it's just like, I was so exacerbated because it took me once, I think maybe 30 minutes in, right? Like, once you find this new girl and they start introducing backstories and more information about the characters, it took me completely out of the movie, because as somebody who reads comic books and comic book movies, it's just, it's a dumb, lazy movie.
Yeah. And I still can't, like, even if you don't have, even if for whatever reason you don't end up making a lot of money, right? Or whatever, because you're 6,000 years old and you're just like, your view of the world is different and you don't care about money. Booker, the Napoleon dude, clearly would.
Yeah.
It's just so stupid. It's so stupid. It's so insulting. And then they really, really go over the top with the gay...
the gay couple, Joe and Nikki.
And this is the problem. I have zero problem with there being a gay couple, but it's so insulting about why they're about them being lovers. It's so poorly written.
Yeah, it is. And we mentioned there's like this weird like soliloquy that Joe goes on.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it is so out of place. I think that soliloquy is fine if you write around and figure out a way to put it so where it doesn't seem so weird and out of place. They just didn't. They just said, hey, we want this movie to have this, 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 and this, and we're just going to do it, and we're just not going to care.
Right. And it's so weird. And then the next scene we see of them after he does this soliloquy in the back of a armored truck, which all he, they're both captured, and they kiss, and all of the guards are so incredibly homophobic that they rip them apart. Then he gives the soliloquy, and then the next scene is
They're all dead.
The truck being opened by guards later, and they're all dead. But these two characters are still zip tied, right? So they've been in there. We don't know how long, but it's almost like a gag from a vampire movie.
Yeah, it's like a joke. And not only did they kill everyone in that van, when they opened the door, they just walk with them to go be captured.
Yeah, exactly. It's
unbelievably stupid. I think there were a couple of things that they needed to do to quote unquote to make it more believable. I think I think it's important that Booker betrays them, because otherwise there's no way they get caught, right? That was smart.
Right. I also like the reveal of the gun being empty.
Yeah, that was smart too.
Yeah, that was a very good reveal. That Nikki gets the gun, or Niall gets the gun. Niall and Kiki. She gets the gun. She opens it up, and she sees that it's empty, but she's already gone.
Mm-hmm.
That gives her actual reasoning to come back. Which, by the way, she was being kind of a dick to people. She's like, well, I'm not going to help you, even though you've helped me. And the relative, hour to 2 hours to help you complete your mission is time away from my family.
And you can't die.
Right. They tried to bring up like a PTSD angle and a not wanting to murder people angle, but that goes out the window real quick.
Yeah. So one of the things that I was thinking of is they need to introduce that if you hit these people with enough drugs, they'll be paralyzed or fall asleep. And you don't have to be careful about it. Just dose them with as many drugs as you can to keep these incredibly dangerous people asleep, right? Andy, I think the most important question that they don't even address is, can you kill them by cutting their heads off?
Well, clearly, no. Well, we don't see any kind of dismemberment, right? Like, we don't see anything. Like, an arm doesn't come off. Nothing. Yeah. And you would figure that in the course of thousands of years of battle, one of them would lose a finger at the very least somehow.
Right. They want to sidestep all these questions to just get the plot moving, except we have, I think the core audience for this movie has too much experience with Immortals. You have Wolverine, you have Deadpool, two of the biggest top 15 characters in all of comic books. You have the Highlander series, which people love, at least nerds love, right? But the Highlander solves that thing. It's like, yeah, you can cut their head off, right? Wolverine, he thinks he can die if you cut his head off, but you can't because of the metal spine. And Deadpool is so ridiculously overpowered in his healing that it doesn't matter. He just regrows his body. And so that question needs to be answered.
Well, and Charlize Theron's character supposedly wants to die so badly that she just hasn't asked them to try this.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. There's no defending that except to just say it's a bad action movie and just go with it. And that's just not for me. Apparently, Andy, there's a post-credit scene.
Yes, there is.
Okay. I heard about it. I didn't watch it.
Okay. Well, you just see Booker coming home. Booker, the white character from Napoleon era France, who betrayed them and was just basically forgiven but told not to contact them for 100 years. He comes to a house. He opens it up, and the fifth member from earlier, the Quinn. She's sitting in his house drinking some scotch and says, "Oh, you must be Booker. We haven't met yet." And then end credits. So, villain for the next movie.
Okay, so bad. Here is my last point, I guess, is that when the Russo brothers were making Captain America: The Winter Soldier, they came out and they said, "We need to make an action movie that can't be taken apart by the cinema sins, guys." And that's how you get an incredible action movie, right? You keep the person on the ride and let the ride run. And if you're smart enough in your writing or in your directing or in your action set pieces, nobody's going to care, right? I think The Dark Knight, is a perfect example of this. There is so many logical inconsistencies in that movie, but the experience and the direction and the sleight of hand that Nolan uses, it erases it. If you watch a Jackie Chan movie, the plot could make zero sense to me. If I see Jackie Chan doing amazing stunt work, I'm going to watch and enjoy that movie. I think this movie needed something, needed to do one of those things. I think everything is at best a B, except for the believability. Like my suspension of disbelief, it's an F. And so this is not going to get like a really good grade from me at all. Any other thoughts you have on this, Andy?
At 2 hours and 5 minutes, it's way too long.
Oh, it's unbelievably long.
Also, there are like CW quality musical numbers.
Oh, it's bad. Forgot I wrote that down too.
Yeah. It's this movie is one of those movies where eventually you go, okay, how much longer is left? Am I going to finish this tonight? Do I have to finish this tomorrow? And you look, and you're only halfway through, and you and everyone you're watching it with just screams, "What? No! How is this not? How are we not 3 hours in?"
Yeah, it's so. The musical numbers, I tweeted this out. It feels like a wedding being DJ'd by a Spotify DJ. And it's like, if it's a student film, if it's a cheap TV show, then that's fine. For like a $70 million action film with Charlize Theron, not fine. I could not bear to watch it. I didn't even, the part where like, towards the end, after that last action sequence where I was hoping to find something good, I just like started like fast forwarding to see if anything else happened, because it was just so long. But
Ariel. Here's two other things I just want to bring up. They are in downtown London, and the streets are completely empty in the middle of the day.
Because coronavirus is happening, Andy.
Oh, okay. But also, they bring up this big like thing that you don't know when your immortality is going to stop. Right? Mm-hmm. They don't know when or why or how or whatever, but eventually one day they just don't recover.
Mm-hmm.
But they are so blasé about killing each other.
Yeah.
Like so incredibly blasé. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it really doesn't. I kind of wish that, like, remember that first guy who dies, the black guy, the first immortal, when they found out it just runs out. I wish they had put a line that was just like, yeah, he was the most reckless out of all of us, or something. Like, right. We were more,
so that way you might even think that there's like a number attached to it.
Yeah, you run out of energy someday. But then, like, it's weird because how is Andy 6,000 years old? Or so old that she doesn't know the number to it. And everybody else can, like, perfectly date when they turned immortal. They're just, it is like the rules don't make sense, but the message doesn't hit and the action's not that good. And so it's just like, all right, why did I spend 2 hours watching this? I mean, obviously I didn't like it. And I am not exactly the most welcoming of mediocrity when it comes to my entertainment. Even in a pandemic where I'm home all day, my time is very valuable to me.
Right. Well, I've been experiencing with my new podcast, Monkey Off My Backlog, I've been experiencing things that I've been meaning to, and for the most part, they've been pretty good. And that's the thing. There's so much that I haven't experienced that I'm really enjoying. You don't have to waste this on new content because there's still plenty of content that's new to you.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our homework, and we'll talk about things that we do enjoy instead of things that we apparently did not. Oh, no. First off, Andy, what was your grade for The Old Guard?
D.
Okay, yeah.
D.
Yeah. I flirted with C-, but talking about it just makes it worse. It's a D. It's not completely terrible, but also not good at all.
Right. Like I can't give this an F because so many parts of it professionally are competent.
Yeah, well,
right?
Here's the thing. This is not good. It was just expensive.
Right. But also, there's a scene where Charlize Theron blocks a kick with her leg, and it just snaps Niall's leg. It just snaps it.
If you wanted, you needed something to establish that not only are they immortal, they're like Captain America. Like, but we don't get that. So... Well, you can't, whatever. Andy, what's your homework for today?
My homework is a movie that is on Hulu called Palm Springs. It stars Andy Samberg and actress whose name I always forget.
Kristen Milotti?
Yes. The mother from How I Met Your Mother is what she's known as. It is a wonderful little sci-fi-esque rom-com. I recommend you watch it without knowing the twist, so don't watch any trailers. It's 90 minutes long. It's fantastic and wonderful, and it's on Hulu. Palm Springs.
All right. My homework this week is a book that I just read called Interior Chinatown. It is basically a metacontextual story about a man who is Asian American and is trying to go from generic Asian man 3 and work his way up to Kung Fu guy. You meet his mom, who starts off her career as generic Asian woman and ends up being like old Tiger Mom, and you meet his dad who starts like him as generic Asian man 3 and moves up to old Asian master. And so it's just basically a brilliant book on how entertainment has shoehorned and pigeonholed Asian people into certain things. Talks about the Asian struggle. I want to recommend this for anybody who's, one, Asian, and two, anybody who wants to get into creating entertainment in any way, shape, or form. It really helps contextualize what being an Asian actor or character or whatever, what it really means and what the struggles that they have gone through. So that's Interior Chinatown, written by Charles Yu. It's a quick read. It's written like a screenplay. Yeah. All right. Let's get out of here, Andy. Where can people find you online?
You can find me online on Twitter, Letterboxd at Hebrews Paleo, and you can also find my other podcast, Monkey Off My Backlog, at Monkey Backlog on Twitter.
Or you can find me on Twitter at Portly Island Boy. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook and Patreon at Geek One Podcast. Email us geek1pod@gmail.com. That's all we have for today. Class dismissed.